going to do a demo on wedding goblets. All right. I do this a lot for weddings and anniversaries, you name it. People love it. It's pretty easy to do. And what I use, can you switch to the Celtic thing? All right, it's called The Legend of the Celtic Wedding Goblet. I got that offline. All right, it's a great thing to tell them. And if you look at the read, it is a legend where the boyfriend's supposed to carve a chalice with 2 rings out of it connected together. And if that stays together, then life is good. All right. So you have to be real careful when you turn this, that you don't give somebody something that has a cracked ring. Because when you give them this card to go with it, it's not good. Or 3 rings, yeah. Trust me, that I do that. So that one is like my wife stole. I made that for somebody's anniversary, and my wife said, "No, that's going to me." It happens on occasion. So I like doing that one. I like that form, but you really can make any form that you really want. All right. Let's see. Yeah, just about any form that you want. I really like this one the best for a wedding. It's a little harder to do because you have to do a little bit more hollowing. All right. But if you're trying to give something I call it classy, that version is really classy. This I kind of like. I did this one. I had a piece of, this is tulip poplar. I don't know where I got it from, probably Aramont or something like that. And it was laying around the garage, so I said, well, this is my practice piece. And you'll notice there are 3 rings on there, and I'll explain that's why there's 3 rings on that one. It has nothing to do with dating or anything. And then this is rosebud, all right? And it's more of a traditional straight up style goblet, all right? So should I pass these around? I want to keep this one. I need that one for examples, so you can send those around. Thank you. Okay. What you should use is probably something dry, not terribly dry, but green would be not so good. All right, because you're going to end up with things that are wonky all over the place. If you can get it to work, go ahead. I've done a couple of green ones, but they don't look real good. So you use something like this. This is just a 3x3 by 12. And what I do is just find centers like that. It's pretty simple. And then you come back and you put, so I come back and I just put a mark in the center and a mark on the other side. And it's really just, it's been to work, all right? I have. Once or twice. So I'm not gonna turn this one down because anybody can go squirt it around. So we're gonna Julia Childs it and assume I did this. Okay. So now we can take this piece of wood off. And we'll put this on. Okay. All right, so let's see what I got here. I'm not actually. It's spindle turning, so I'm not really too worried about the mask. If I were doing a lot of stuff flying off of it, like turning it around, which is why I didn't do that, I would wear that. If I were in my shop, I probably would wear it as well. All right, but for a spindle turn, if it's trapped in between 2, it's pretty safe. You want to protect your eyes. So I feel safe doing this. I've done this several times. A lot of other people do the same way. So we're going to do it that way. Also, I would have a mask on, breath. There's a lot of things I'd be doing different if it wasn't a demo. So, all right. So I'm just going to kind of true this up a little bit. Does that blow it out? And I'm really not trying to do too much here. I just want to get it, because I just put it on there, I wanted to get it back round, just in some round shape, right? Okay. And if I were at home, I'd be playing with a skew, trying to do this with a skew because it's fun. Now I want to, the second thing that's really important about doing this is you're going to have a lot of things hanging off the end of it, so you want it to be very solid. So you want your tenon to be as big as it can be, just slightly less than what you max can be. So I have, I made myself a little template. I'm using a Vic Mark 100 with a shark bite, 55 millimeter shark bite. And what that's going to give me is the max. So I don't have to figure it out every time. I've got it right there. Now we're going to put a tenon on there. And it's slightly dovetailed. And I've got a little tenon jig that'll give me tells me about how deep I need to go. All right. All right, so now I've got the tenon on there. We're going to take it off. It's a long one. There you go. Man, you could load a barrel with that. There you are. Okay. So now I want to bring this back up. Oops, do that. Load this thing in. That's about right. Now, I could have, I can bring this, I like to bring the end piece back up, put a little pressure on it while I tighten this down, okay? If you do that without taking the center out, you're going to create a multi-axis turn. And what happens is because this center is no longer the center, because anytime you put a tenon on there and you flip it around, centers are not center anymore, okay? So you got to kind of disregard that one if you're going to push this in, because if you put that in, it can push it down a little bit and you will not get a good tight seal over here, which is what you really want if you're hanging this far off. So what I did is I made a little cap to go on top of it. That is a plastic PT whatever, and if you get a 21/32 drill and a tap, you can tap that and you can put all kinds of accessories onto here. It's whatever you want to make, it's great for that. All right. So I just took a flat piece, drilled it. I bring that back up now, and that allows me to put some pressure against this one so that I can now tighten this back down. All right. And I want to make sure it's good and tight. Couldn't get it much closer than that. And if you pull this back off, it's pretty solid. You can pound on it a little bit. It's not going anywhere. Now, you now come back into here. Let's check it out first to make sure it's working right. Okay, so you can see how much it's wobbling there. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to take some of that wobble out because I want it back centered again. like I said, if I had more time to play, I'd use a skew. Now, I want to come off on this end, and I just want to take that off and clean it up a little bit. You can say, why? Well, I'm going to do some drilling on the end of it to do the hollowing portion of it. And if I left that center there, wherever my drill was going to follow that center. So if it's off center, it'll never be right. That was one of the best tips I got actually from Jack. And I don't like jewelry on when I'm doing things. That's going to give me a little dimple in the middle, which is what I need. All right, so now everything's centered. So let's see, next thing. All right, so now I'm going to bring my support back up. I'm going to do a little layout work. So this thing's about 12 inches or so. Oh, there it is. So yeah, it's about, I don't know. Actually, it's about 11 inches. Okay. So for me, I'm going to do just a little bit of layout work. It's not, there's nothing hard here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my tenon, or I'm going to cut, this will be my tenon right here. This will be the beginning of my foot. And if I go up here about halfway up, all right, about 5 inches or so, right along in here. So this portion is going to be my chalice. This portion is going to be my stem, all right? And then if I come up, I think it's like 7.5, I think it's a little more than that. This right in here should be my apogee. So that's going to be the widest part of my piece, and I'll form my shape around that one. So what I've got now is I'm working with about 5 inches here. Doesn't have to be exact until you start drilling back and forth, but you want to have some relative idea of what you're doing before you start to lay your gouge onto it. Okay, a little bit more. Okay. So now I usually do a little bit of marking. Oh, there it is. So I'll come back in here and I'll make these a little bit better than a pencil do. This is really dry wood. And that doesn't matter. Okay. So now I've got some really hard visuals. Now what I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to get this set up right. And I'm going to try and round this over. Now the only thing I really want to be careful about is I don't want to make this too narrow, because then my my Forstner bits won't work. So I've got to leave this at around 2 inches or so. I should have made a template for that if I'd have been smart, but I'm not totally that smart. So that's about right, 2 inches. That'll give me a visual. No, a little too much downhill. All right, so say I'm close. I don't really care for the shape. So what I do is I like to cheat sometimes. I'll use a scraper. What I really want to do with this was not taking it, I'm not using it to cut. I'm really using it to shape. If you don't feel comfortable with a scraper, you can actually use a negative rake scraper, which can be a little bit safer if you don't, but I find this to work as well. Even though I'm pointing it down, it's really not a true negative rake scraper. It's still a scraper. I just find it functions better for me. So I think I'm going to call that good enough for here. I could play with it quite a while in your shop, just trying to look at your head back and forth, trying to figure out what was the, is that what I really want or is it not what I want? And I always like to hit it with a little sandpaper. This is the part where I use a fan and a respirator and some other stuff. But it'll give me some idea what it's going to look like. And am I going to be happy with that shape? And I call it my last gouge too, because it's a 120, so I can actually do a little bit of shaping in here. Okay. So now I've got the top of the chalice. We're going to leave the rest of this down here, and now we've got to do some hollowing. The next step is to get it into a chalice. It's pretty simple. I say pretty simple. It's no more than any other box or thing that you've made before. So I take this off. All right, and let's turn this down. All right, so we're turning true. So I'm happy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how low I want to go. And there's several ways you could do this. You know, you could put a steady rest on here and then actually do some hollowing work with it. Take a gouge, go back in, cut it back and forth a little bit. You could use a Trent Bosch hollowing system, which is captured, and that'll keep you from catches, and it'll actually make the hollowing a little simpler. All right, but all those are expensive ideas. All right, and not a whole lot of people or everybody has those. So I tried to look at something that was simple that anybody could do. So what I did is I bought a drill. I usually start this off, first thing you want to do when you're doing any kind of hollowing is you want to get the center out. All right. So you can either use a gun drill or any kind of drill, 1/4-inch drill. I've seen people do it. I bought this one. It's 21/32. The reason I bought this one is it's the same drill that I need to make the tap threads in there, so it's perfect. I could have got anything, but I needed that to make these little adapters and stuff that go on there. So it's a twofer for me. So the next thing you do is you want to see how far you want to go in. And I think I'm going to go about to right there because I'm probably going to take that down. So I'll put a little bit of tape on there to tell me where I am. You can find these on Amazon or eBay. Like I said, they weren't very expensive. I bought several of them for this type of work. Because it's a number 2 Morse, you don't need a chuck. I like that portion of it too. Questions? Yep. I found them on eBay. Like I said, I went looking for these and I found them pretty quickly. Well, then you're in trouble. But I'll tell you, they're cheaper on eBay than they're anywhere else because people that have got these and want to get rid of them, they don't know what they've got. And they don't want to use it. So, but they work really nice for this. So every time I see one on there, I pick one up to add to my collection. All right, so the drilling portion of it, we don't want to go too fast with that. All right. Noisy. You can kind of blow that out a little bit. Should have brought straw with me, but I brought something better, I think. Gotta love technology. I did not get that off of eBay. I got that off of Amazon, and it was like about 15 bucks. Okay, so I got that. Well, I kind of hard to tell up in here, but I would have been more than 350 or 300, somewhere in that neighborhood for a drill. I wouldn't want it really fast. I could have put some wax on here that might have slowed that screel down a little bit too. There's a lot of things you can do. This is really dry wood, so yeah, it's really dry. I grabbed this piece. I probably should have grabbed something that was just a bit less dry. I'm probably gonna pay for that later. So now I'm gonna go back in. I'm gonna put I got a Forstner bit. It's 1.5 inches. It's a good one. All Forstner bits are not equal, and this one is I think it's a fish or something like that. But if you look at the non-serrated edges, they cut much better and cleaner than the cheaper models. And I have the China ones. I use them if they don't care, but this is a little bit nicer version. And I use 1.5 inches a lot for a lot of projects. So I'm going to bring that back up. And this one, I want to, and you can say, why didn't he mark it? Because I'll probably feel the bottom. It says I'm 540, but I don't think so. All right, let me look down there. Yep, got a ways to go. Got a ways to go. Huh? No. I'm pretty close. So now that I've got most of the meat out, and actually I could have took this a little lower, and I'm probably going to come back and thin it from the outside a little bit more because I've got a very, very thick. So it's either take the chalice and make it bigger or make the outside thinner. So one of the two. Now once I've, yes?
Curiosity, why didn't you just drill with Forstner first, or you just showing us?
No, because every time I drill with a Forstner bit first, especially if it's a little bit of a moisture in there, I never get the Forstner bit back out, okay? So I was a metalsmith, and I did a lot of drilling in holes, and I never drilled any hole to the final size to start with, okay? Ever. You always start with a smaller hole and work your way up to get, if you want a precision, and the holes that I was drilling at the time were within 0.010 of an inch for aircraft parts. So to get that, you had to go through quite a few drills, then reamers, and different types of reamers. So for me in the machinist world, you would drill the center out with the drill. It's very quick, it's very efficient, it doesn't get stuck, everything seems to clear real good. The problem with a Forstner bit is it will get stuck and it won't clear out unless you're in and out, in and out. And I'm lazy, I want to go in and get out. I don't want to go in and out. And I've lost a few projects trying to get the Forstner bit out of there. So yes, no, I don't, the drill makes it, it's just so easy to make the one step. It's quicker. And then normally I would now come back in and I would take my scraper and go back up in there and scrape it out and do whatever. And then I thought, you know, let's cheat some more. So the next cheat was a router bit. Okay. These you can buy over there because that's where I got this one. It's very small. I kind of like the size of it because I can now get into, hopefully I can get in here. This one is I got that one on Amazon. It's like, I don't know, 13 bucks or something like that. It's a 1.75" by with an 1.5" radius. And my idea is not to take out a whole lot of material with that. I want to take a small edge out. All right? I could have made this larger, but take a small edge out. And when I get to the bottom, I just want to get rid of the tip that the Forstner bit leaves, because that's the hardest thing to get out with a Forstner bit, which is the negative. So I thought, let me try this one, and it worked on the well, it worked on that one behind me there. So it's just straight into a chuck. Most of my stuff is mounted in the chuck. I've just found that if I can get it out of the chuck into a number 2 Morse taper, I'm much better. I get a much better solid, although this is not very solid, by the way. Helps to lock it down. All right, let's see if I can see where I am. And like I said, oh yeah, I got a long way to go on that one. The idea here is to take this all the way in, and I might not be able to do it with this one, and get it to the very bottom. And you can usually feel when you've hit the bottom. It doesn't cut real easy. I think I hit the bottom. Oh, just a little bit more, not much. I like this little thing. I don't know why. Gadgets. I love gadgets. All right, so we got just a little bit more. Only real danger about this job is if you go too deep, you'll come out here. So you do have to be a little careful. And that's perfect. Hopefully I wasn't too non-careful. Oh, where are you at? So let's go see how deep I am. Yes, sir? It's not bad. This? It is. It's in one of yours. It is. It's in one of yours. No, you don't have the router bits, but you have the chucks. And so I bought this off of Ernie. I found them, and what I liked them is because they were small. I mean, they're not easy to find because usually they look like this, and that's not going to go well in there. Okay, so for this one, I needed something small, and I had bought it. I'd found them at Ernie's box over there. They were $20 or something. They were cheap, and this is perfect. I mean, it's perfect for what I'm doing right there. And if you have some stuff that you've got to go inside, you can mount anything into it. I'm not a big fan of chucks, but this one I am a fan of. Which one? Oh, this? I'm ready. I'm ready. I am ready because it hit the bottom. All right, so it's a it's an 1 3/4 with a 1.5 inch radius. It's the only one I could find that kind of matched my requirements. All right, huh? Excuse me. Hey, is he? Huh. I would have ran over there. Trust me. I might even have 2 of these, but I'm not giving them away. So can you see that now? Is that what you can see? All right. This is like that was Amazon, and if you want a link to that one, I can find you. I can send you that one too. They're up there. They were, I think it was $14 or something like that. It was very, very cheap. So, and I did kind of like that one. The only thing I didn't do tonight, which is non-prepared, is I didn't bring the Chucky with me. Thank you. I didn't need it. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yep. I don't know why. Like I said, I got that off of you. Play with it all you want. I'm done, so you can play with it. So now that I've got that done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here and I'm actually going to do a little bit of wood turning, hollowing. I want to go back inside and clean that up because it's not very clean. So I like to use something like this. These are fairly cheap too, but they're great steel, Chinese steel. As long as you sharpen it a lot, it works fine. So in this one, I want to get it back up into here. And now this one, I know you think I'm funny. I will use it for this one, okay? Now, if I had a steady rest, I could be a little bit more aggressive on this one. But being as I don't have a steady rest, I'm just really barely trying to get this clean. I'm not trying to do a whole lot of cutting. And I am slightly raising this up a little bit. It's not really going in like this. It's really more a slight cock down to get a nice cleaner cut. And like any other, you really want to work from the top to the bottom. right, so I would continue to work that until I got it to some semblance of size. I might even take it out, you know, to get my thickness this way, but I'm not going to go through that entire process tonight. Just be it known that I will do that eventually. I bet you the battery died. Oh, there he goes. That's the smallest one I could find, by the way. I was looking for a smaller one, but I didn't get it. So now I'm going to take a look up in there, and it's close. I would actually do a lot more work up in there. I would go back up it, and I'm not going to do that because there's nothing you can really see. Just different different techniques of. I'll use this, and I've got another one somewhere else. That's got a raise a bulb on it, a little radius piece, and I would use that to come back up in here. Now, what you want to do is you want to do a little sanding up in here. So where's the sandpaper? So what I like to use for that one is you could use, I don't know, anything you wanted, but to start off with, I'm going to use a little 120. And I put it up into here on this little rubber pad that I got. I think I gave a bunch of these away one time. They were, it's neoprene that you use for divers. It's really great for backing, for sanding. I got a roll of it. I cut tons of it up in there. So what I do is medical use. All right. So when you want to sand, you don't want to sand real fast. You can put your finger in here, but it hurts. So I would continue to do that. I can sand you through the grits if you want to go there, but I'm not going to go there. And yeah, anybody can sand, but that's not really true, by the way. Sanding is an art in itself. All right. So now I've got that sanded down. I'm going to pretend like it's up to, I took it to 320 or 400 or something like that. Then I would come back, and what I like to do is I want to seal it with sealer. We talked about earlier about wood sealer, which I like to use a lot of it. And again, because I'm going down a hole somewhere, I just simply put that on there. This is my wood sealer. It's really high dollar. It's Zinsser, shellac, and denatured alcohol. All you're trying to do with a sealer is you're trying to seal the wood, okay? Nothing more. Depending on what I was trying to do, if you get into a color situation, you might even not want to use that because this is going to darken it up a little bit, all right? But if I were going to put something else on there, let's say I was putting on CA glue, all right, something like that. Well, if you have this on there, the CA glue doesn't stain. If you don't have that on there, you're going to have stain from a CA glue that you'll never be able to get off. It's just going to be a blotch. You're either going to have to put more to make it look right or just say, geez, I'll never do that again, all right? So I always am in the habit of just sealing it off. It's not a hard thing to do. I like it on this one because now I can go in here and rub it up and down and then get it in here. Now, what I will tell you is that one of the things I learned about denatured alcohol, I talked to Mark about this. He'd never had this happen to him before. Harold has a lot of things happen to him. This never happened before. So I made a hollow form out of a tree limb. So I had the pith running through the middle. It was bulged out on the outside, so you had the pith on the ends. So I spent a lot of effort and time to let that dry out because it didn't want it to split, all right? Took me maybe a year or better to get it to where I had like 5 or 6% moisture on it. So I brought it back in. It was warped by then, but now I'm just going to sand it to make a pretty bowl out of it. or pretty hollow form out of it. And I'd already hollowed it. I did it while it was green. So I decided to seal the inside for some stupid reason. Nobody goes on the inside, but you know, no good deed goes unpunished. And I found that if you take denatured alcohol and shellac 50-50 and you squeeze a lot of it in a hole and let it just kind of churn its way around to coat, which is what I thought I was going to do, it will quickly rehydrate the pith and then quickly crack it, as bad as it would have been when you cut it off the day you cut it off. Okay, so 2 years or so went by the wayside. So never pour that down if you have something that's got a pith or something in it. For this, it would have been fine if I'd have done that. I didn't do that. So now, once I've got this back up in here, the next thing I would do is I would come back in here again, and I would grab something different, 220. And because I've got that up in there, I'm going to need to take that fuzz off, all right? So the fuzz is off now. It's now smooth. If you don't do that, you'll never get a fine finish, all right? So I did that one. And then what I would do next is, because I'm working on the end. Now, you could actually work this thing after it's completed, but I like to go ahead and work on the inside of it long before it's completed, just because it's easier to do with a big fat stem that's holding it steady than it is when it's going to be thin. You would run the risk of cracking the stem itself. I haven't really done that yet, but I could see myself doing that. So the next thing that I do, if you could, the finish that you put on this is your own choice. A lot of times this is going to be up on a shelf somewhere, and it's never going to be really touched. If it's drank one time, it'll be at the wedding. If you read the card, they're supposed to take a drink out of it. That's part of the ceremony. So I don't even worry about food safe back up in here. If I put a shellac type, something that's fairly safe, by the time they get it, there's fine. And I don't think one drink out of it's going to hurt them, because it's not designed to house water or moisture. So what I use is, I use Pins Plus. Doctor's Wood is it's what a lot of pin makers use, and it's a really good finish. And I'll just put some in, and this has a carnauba wax inside of it, or it's not carnauba wax. This is a different type of wax, micro something. I don't know if it's carnauba. It's micro aggregate Cosmolode 80H synthetic wax. All right, and so you get a little wax on there. It's really a walnut oil with denatured alcohol and the wax inside of it. He makes about 4 or 5 products of it, and I actually use 3 or 4 of them. There's one for high sheen, but this one is got with the wax on it. It gives you a little bit of hand. You can feel it with your hand. You're not going to hurt it a little bit. So I would finish that on the inside, and I go, okay, got that done. So that's the next step. Yes, it will. Yes. So it's really a wax. Basically a wax and walnut. I'm sorry, wax and walnut, which is better than the shellac. I'm making a bit. So now that I've got the inside, we're going to pretend I've got that finished. The next thing I would do is I would come back up here, and I'm going to put my live center back in. I got a left hand and a right hand. What more do you need? No, I did not make a handout. I can't. I'll send out something with all the stuff that I had in there. That's no big deal. I have my show notes that I wrote up, and I figured sooner or later that would be the handouts or something, or at least a distilled version of it. So I'm a big rubber Chucky fan. Okay, so I just bring this back up in here, and that'll give me the security that I want. That puts me back into a good, safe, in between centers piece of turn. So I feel comfortable using that. I'm not going to hurt myself or anybody else with that one. Now, what I will tell you is, if you have a thin, when you're trying to really do it, you're going to have a thin edge. All right. Poplar is not a real strong wood. Okay, and if you poke it too hard, you will get a micro crack. Okay. So you really want to just get this up in there until it's snug and let it go. You're not trying to put pressure up in there. It's not doing anything but giving this, it's steadying. It's steadying it. It's not really holding it. All right? All the holding power is here. And what you should do also there is every now and then, you should come back over here and make sure it's tight. If this were green, I would do it more often. It's so brittle right now, I don't think it would move. All right, so now I would come back in, and like I said, I probably won't do this here. I would finish this a lot thinner than it is right now. So, and I'm going to do that at home. I'm not going to do that here, but I'll show you the process that I would do. Again, I'm just going to come back, and I'm going to take it, sand it down a little bit, put a finish on it. I would get it 90% of the way there. I'd leave this bare, okay? I might not even do this till the end. All right? So now, so the next thing I need to do is I need to make rings, okay? They're not that hard, but they're not that easy either. So I brought several ways to do it, and oddly enough, this is a Benjamin's Best. I bought them when I thought I was going to use that for my basket of illusion things. All right, and they're crap. That's what they are, but they're cheap. They're like $50 get you 4, and if I go to D-Way, $50 get you 1. They're beading tools. It's a beading tool. It's Benjamin's Best. They come 4 in a box. You can find them anywhere. They're dirt cheap. All right. So I had bought those to test, so I hate wasting things. So this now is my ring tool, or part of my ring tool. You can, I usually go in and I'll score it a little bit. To define where I want my tool or where I want my ring. You should make the rings as big as you can because they'll probably end up smaller than that. So really all I'm doing right here is just getting some waste material out of the way. You might say, well, why doesn't he take it all down? I want to leave everything as fat. I want as much material as I can because I need to make 3 rings out of this. Okay? So now I'm going to come back, and I still like to actually, let me change that. I want it shorter. This is not my shortest. I just want to get it out the way. And you'll see in a minute I'm going to turn sideways so the less I have, the better I am. Okay. Pardon me? I think it's 10 mil. Don't quote me. It's the largest one in the pack. So, and then there you are. I like to clean it up. Kip Christensen, thinnest parting tool in the world. Now, they make a tool. It's called a ring captive tool, and I own one. I own a lot of everything. Yeah, it's just one more tool. This one, and you really need some light on that one. If I can see it. Okay. I don't like this one. I'm going to try and use it. Is it? All right, hang on. See if I can move it down here. I just need to throw a little light up in there where I can see. All right. So this tool has a little hook on it, and you can actually flip it from front to back. So you can go in, and you flip it, and you go back, and back. What I don't like about it is if you move that wrong, you're going to gouge it. All right. And I have lost them doing that one. So you have to be really slow and steady with this. Now, I don't use the right one. Because in this case, I'm really just trying to get some material and meat taken away. And I don't even use the roundness. I'm really just using it as a side cutter. And then you can come from this side. I've actually done it this way. I don't like it. Well, let me get out of there before I do that one. Clear a little more material away. What you're trying to do with this one also, and if I did it right, I'd flip it around, it would cut a lot better. But again, so you just want to work from both sides. And it's really just a back and forth. If you try and get aggressive from one side, you'll end up with a heavy ridge. That you'll have to sand out. There you go. All right. It does, because I don't really use I mean, you could use this to get it, but I actually just use the tip, and I use it as a scraper, and I'll go back and forth and work it a little bit more than I worked it in here. Because all I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to get a shape, and the one thing you really don't want to do, which I did, no, I didn't, I forgot a step, but it's okay, is you just don't want to leave it too much in the middle, because it's a lot to work out. You know, you got to do a lot of sanding. So now I'll pull this back up over here. And I can leave it there because I'm fat enough I can just tuck it up in there. And now I'm going to do I'll do another one. I do 3 just because maybe I'll get 2. They're not that hard to make. Again, process is the same. Again, I want to clear some meat away. I just kind of battle back and forth a little bit with the scraper. And then I'll end up using the little bitty parting tool. Now on this one, because it's so thin, I will actually do more with the parting tool on this one. You can, so I'm getting a lot of tear out here, but that's because this thing is so dry. It's dry. It's extremely dry. This is a bad pick. All right. I actually just use the side of it to sort of shape it a little bit. And then now I'm going to come back and I'm going to go in this way. I'm actually cutting with 2. I'm cutting with this, and I'm cutting with a side, all right? Because I have a little scratch up in there, and I'm just trying to take it out by scraping, using this as a scraper. Now I'm close, because I can see light. That's a good thing. One of the things I didn't do, which I should have done, is you really want to sand this before you finish taking it off. You really want to sand this before you take it off. You can get 90% of the work done this way. Otherwise, you're going to be doing a lot of hand sanding, which is okay. You know, very methodical. Kind of like carving. Yeah, I got a lot of the tear out of there. I could work it more to get more tear out, but I'm not going to. While I've got it attached, Let's slow it down. And we're going to put a little bit of shellac on it. And if you hold it there a little bit of time, some friction, it dries really fast. This stuff is dried seconds after you put it on. And I just want to get it solved a little bit there, all right? So I'm pretty close there. And now, again, because I have put shellac on it, I'm going to hit it lightly with some 220. Huh? This is 220. I was using 120 to get the tear out, and I would just do 120, and I would take this up to I would take it up to 320 if I had some. I thought I had some in here. I don't know. I thought I had some 320 in there. So let's pretend I took it up to 320. All right, and then then I would come back, and again I would simply put some pins plus. Slow it down. Unless you have a bad shirt you don't like. Then you can take it back up. And I'll let that kind of, the heat will melt the wax. And it'll put a very nice finish onto it. I can actually feel it at my fingers. And then you can actually, at that point, you can touch it. It's dry. It's not going to do anything. And I would continue to do that. I'd put 3 or 4 coats of that on there as well. So I could get those finished as good as I could on the outside of it. Now I'm pretty close to taking it back off. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off. Now I'm really close down in there. It can wiggle. So I'm going to use the parting tool. And hopefully I won't hit anything other than that. So now I've got 2 rings, and I would go for a third one. I'm going to do a real quick third one. It won't. I'm going to try and do it a speed dial. Go to that one. And you say, why do you get 3? Because again, I don't know. I don't like the second one. The third one might work. So I'm going to shove that up in there, and I'm going to do a quick turn to see if I can do a quick one. You could do it with regular gouges. You don't need it. You could roll them, make a bead, do whatever you want to do. If you're a good turner. Mini skew. All I'm really doing is just kind of eating it away a little bit. So this one, I want to be a little careful here because that's going to be my foot. So I don't want to take too much material away. There you go. So you can do it relatively quick, and as I should have done, I didn't sand it, but that's okay. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to flatten this out a little bit. Nothing major. I just want to make it flat because I want to do some work in there. Get these off the counter here. Shouldn't have those up there. Okay, so let me flatten that a little bit more. Now I'm going to just put a small sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to sand the insides of it. So how do you do that? Well, if you bring the right stuff, all right, you make yourself a sanding wheel. Okay. This is 220. I'd like to do a little bit more than that. I thought this is my trick for sanding. CA glue. All right. I just simply put a little bit across the top. Like that. Okay. Let that set up there. Accelerator. Pop that on. A little more accelerator. Wrap that around. Let's bring this piece on like that. Turn it down. Get that out the way. Sanding. This saves me a lot of time. And had I, like I said, if I'd made the outside perfect, when I got done, I wouldn't really have much to do. You want it low enough to where you can get an angle on it, okay? And just kind of do both sides, watch it. I've got some 80 grit in there, so if you screwed up it really bad on the inside, put 80, 120, whatever. You can do a lot of the work that way. What I really thought was the cool thing was how I made my little sanding thing. That just came to me. I'm like, wow. I was thinking about putting wedges in there like Phil Irons does and other people do, and I'd glued them all the way around, and man, I'd spent a lot of time doing that. And it dawned on me, I don't need to hold but one end. So now you just continue at that until you get it to where you want. And that's why I had this back in here. I could pull this back over here, bring this over here, tape that off, and I continue. I make one, I put a little bit of a depression in there. And I have taken it and put it across the depression because it'll come right off. And let's see, where are you? Oh, put it across the depression. 3M paper has some backing on it, slick backing on it. It doesn't hold quite as good as a regular piece of sandpaper. I've got some strip sandpaper that's really works. Cures it. It will not. So if you wanted to do this without accelerator, As you can see, it goes really good. This would not hold, all right? This just wouldn't hold. So the accelerator is almost like an instant cure, okay? So, didn't get that one straight, but that's okay. You'll get the point. Anything you can stick to, it works. You could, yeah. Yeah. So, you could. I mean, I use, actually what I use more than I do anything else. Something I brought that I can't see because I'm blind. I can't see my, oh, there it is. Ah, that's where the two things are. So I kind of like this paper. It's got a nice crocus cloth back. It sticks real good. It's a little bit flexible. And you can find them. I just bought the whole, I forget where I got it. It was like 20 bucks for this whole roll. And I've been using it for 10 years. And I've never really ran out of one. This one, what you can do is once you get done, if you weren't smart enough to leave that open, now you just simply go up in here and you start this process. And you work your way around. The other thing is if you got a microcarver, you can use a microcarver and do the microcarver. But I would, if I were going to do that, I would go ahead and finish and get this as thin as I possibly could and then go into making the piece. So let's see how this thing works in that little groove down there. Probably not that good. Yeah, I'm just trying to get a round. I'm just trying to make a round edge. And I found if I make a nice, if I keep it flat, I've got to really just work on one surface. If I make it round just a little bit, then it more mimics the inside. And I can actually get just a little bit better flow. Okay. So, and you can see it kind of folded down into there. And it actually did do a little bit better over here. Okay. I think this one's going to go in the trash can, by the way, just to let you know. So I'm not too worried about it. I'll give it to anybody that wants it. Because it's fighting me right now. That is dust. I got this wood, I don't know, a few years back from Iowa. Kid sells blocks over there, and it's been sitting there drying, and I was going to do, Geiger wanted me to do some square bowls. And I bought that, and this was perfect for that. But I put it up in the attic, thinking that would be a great place to dry things. Nope. You'll dry it out, all right. But it'll be so dry, it'll turn to dust. So you want it a little bit more hydrated than it is right here, okay? So I just kind of tape these together just to keep them together and out of my way. And then I come around here, lock them over there, okay? And like I said, if it was me, I would come back and I'd do a little more work on this one. So I think it's a little too thick, but as you say, I'm probably not going to keep this one. So now I'm going to just come back and I'm going to finish up making my a chalice or goblet, just like I would any other goblet. I just hold that out the way. And That's why it was making noise. Oh, catch. Wouldn't be a good demo without a catch. Don't do that. You're just trying to get in here, give yourself a feature at the bottom. It could be a bowl, anything you really like. It's really up to your mind. Yeah. Then as much as you dare. So that is I usually make it a little thinner than this. Okay. I just want it to be kind of pleasant. If you look at the stems on here, all right. So if you look at the stems on here, you can see it's really more proportional to whatever the size is. You don't want them too thick. You can go really thin, and that's okay, all right? But the thinner you get, the more risk you have, and you can finish up down there. And that's why I said if you look at this rings right here, there's one of them on here that has the start of a crack. So these two will be the rings up there. That one will go away, okay? All right, so let's take it down a little thinner. Try something here too. I really don't like that. As you can tell, I wasn't really happy with the thickness on there, so I decided to take a little bit more. Now I'm at the point where I can actually do some work up into here, some sanding. The other thing I would do is I would come back and do a lot more sanding with the grain, because you're going to get some serrations around the edges if you're not real careful. You can see I've got some in here. I'd have to work that a little bit better. And I would get some sanding block, and I would do a sanding block with it to get it to the shape that I wanted. I'm not really thrilled with that. Stupid. And I would come back in here and do some sealing, sanding sealer again. That'll give you some semblance of what it's going to look like as far as color is concerned. And again, I'm happy with that as far as the shape is concerned. Now we pull it off and let's finish the bottom off. Need to make that a little tighter. See if that holds. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Better than the lathe. Again, a little bit of sanding, nothing major. Let's see how we did. All right. I usually take these off and just let them kind of wrap a little bit, let them run free, if you will. It doesn't really matter. And then, just to give you a taste of what finish I look like, or what it looks like on a finish, I'm going to do a little bit of finish and then I'll be done on the top piece. Yeah, I picked the one I didn't like and it come off. I said I would finish all three of them because I'd like to have them compete with each other. But yeah, I would pick the ring. I don't, three doesn't seem to go for weddings. I know, I thought about that too. I said I'd probably sell a ton of them in Key West, but hey. And if you kind of let these kind of like run loose, they don't mess up the finish, oddly enough, with this stuff. It just kind of bounces around. Say again? What now? What type of wood? Hardwood. Dry hardwood. It's funny. So when I asked for this, I wanted, like I said, I was trying to make some tri-bowls that Geiger had challenged me to do. So I wrote the guy a letter and said, hey, give me a Facebook and send me this. It's plain. I didn't care what it was. Just plain, simple, clear, no grain, whatever. And this is what he sent me. And Paula told me what it was, and I can't remember. She looked at it. She knew what it was because I made the tri-bowl. And she goes, oh, that's so whatever. Okay, so. Yeah. He's on Facebook. He's pretty cheap on blocks of wood. He cuts them. I bought 12 by 12 by 5 for $40 shipped. Walnut, black walnut. Of course, it's green. but it did make some nice purses. I did my daughter I think for their, I think their 10th wedding anniversary or something like that. I did one of those for them in black walnut, and it turned out really nice. Huh? Yeah. This is called Pins Plus. It's Doctor's Wood Shop. Pins Plus. I know the guy that owns the shop. He's a member of my wood turning club out in Portland. Mike Meredith is the one that owns it. And he's a chemist. He doesn't try to make a whole lot of money on it. He's a wood turner. He'll explain to you what does what, why it works good. And it makes sense to me, you know. He talks about, 12-chain hydrocarbons and all other good stuff that I haven't a clue what they are. I used to know back in the day. But what I like about it is it gives you it'll give you a good quick finish. I'll put maybe 4 or 5 coats on there. Put a coat in, walk in the house, come back 15, 20 minutes later, put another coat onto it. And then and you can see it gives you a pretty good shine. And I'll get to the point where I'll let it dry overnight because I just want it to be, no moisture inside there. And then I'll come back out in the morning. I'll hit it with either 5 or 800 grit sandpaper and just lightly go back over it, and then put 2 or 3 more coats of Pins Plus on top of that. And then it'll be quite shiny and durable. The good thing is it's wax, so it's, you can grab your hand on it, do what you want to do with it. Liquids don't affect it too much. So now, basically, I don't take the foot all the way off until I'm really ready. Because if you leave the foot on, you can finish it, you can dry it, you have something to hold into here, and then it's just a matter of parting it off. And what I do is I made a sanding wheel. I don't know, do you have a sander, disc sander? This is your best disc sander you can have. I just made a simple wheel, put a disc sander. I bought some 10-inch self-adhesive or sticky back sandpaper, and I just sand it, and you got till it gets smooth, and you set it down, set smooth, then you can mark it or do whatever you want to with it. So it's an easy way. I do that a lot for bowls too. I know you're supposed to do it with your gouge and whatever, but I'll get it as far as I want. And then if it's something, especially if it's a small foot, sandpaper works 120 works pretty good. And then come back and hand work it back into it. But that's basically what you get.